In today's video, we take a look at this bad boy, the Z Fold 4. Is there enough of a difference with this model compared to the third generation or last year's model to merit the purchase or upgrade? Or maybe you're coming from an older one. Let's talk about if it's worth it. So by the time you're watching this video, I've spent about 30 days with this phone, and I have a lot of thoughts. And these thoughts really depend on which model of Fold you're coming from. So I think a lot of this video will depend on if you have the previous model or you're coming from an older model, or maybe this is your first experience into a folding phone. So first off, the importance of this year is refinement. That is the whole thing I'm going to base this review on. Is there is so many refinements to this phone that make it a compelling option. So let's talk about the refinements in the specs first. First off, the screens are basically the same. The cover screen is a slightly wider and primarily with aspect ratio. So what that makes it feel like is a more comfortable wielding front screen solution. What my experience was with on the Fold 3 is sometimes it's cramped, and even worse on older generations with cramped with typing. So the aspect ratio makes the screen a little wider. The bezels are a little narrower too, and they've also reduced the bezels on the internal screen as well. Another major refinement this year is with the frame. There's a new hinge that is utilized inside, which basically narrows the gap in between the two screens. This also helps with strength, I believe. After utilizing a folding phone for over a year, I've noticed that the hinge already seems slightly stiffer on this one. So I feel like over time the longevity of this phone will actually be better compared to the Model 3. And the fit and finish overall, the glass back with its soft touch feel. Yes, this phone's still slippery, and yes, because of the cost, I still think you should put a case on it, but there are some really good cases this year, and Samsung actually released a really good case. This case even gives you the option to house the pin, but also the benefit of this is this slides out, and then you can replace this area with a kickstand instead, which I thought was very handy. So even accessories this year I feel are even refined. Other things that have been refined is the biggest thing in my opinion to this year's model compared to last year's, and that is the cameras. Primarily the main sensor. Instead of being a 12 megapixel sensor, it is a 50 megapixel sensor now. Now obviously with how smartphones cameras work, you don't use all 50 megapixels, but overall you can get much further zoom, or you can see much larger quality if you print out a picture from a lens this size. The telephoto is still a 12 megapixel, and the wide angle is still a 12 megapixel as well. So those really haven't changed a lot, but they were okay before. It was the main sensor that, in my opinion, didn't live up to the flagship and the cost that you're paying with this. This was always my nitpick with the Fold so far, is they put so much thought and process and R&D and perfection into the folding and the two screens that when it comes to the cameras are been a little bit of an afterthought before, leaving the S22 Ultra truly being Samsung's flagship camera option. This year, I feel like that is definitely improved. The cameras are at least on the same level as the rest of the S22 line. Obviously, the S22 Ultra still has slightly better camera because of those optical sensors for zooming. The telephoto on this does go up to 3x zoom now, and it does have the super zoom, so you can get those cool moon shots if you want now, just like you can on your S22. So the big refinements this year are definitely around the camera, but there's all these other little things that also get refined. From the main sensor now supporting that 8K resolution, which you didn't have on last year's model, to the benefits of Android 12L and having the taskbar. That should be coming to the third generation very soon. I've seen some regions already getting that, to the 12L features between the taskbar and the multitasking and 3 apps. It's just a lot of little things that make the device overall smoother and user-friendly. Even the RAM, even the battery, all that is the same. The CPU has of course updated to the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, and so far that is another big refinement because of the better processor. I'm seeing improved battery life and of course better multitasking or high intensive apps like photo editing or video editing seems to be improved compared to last gen's model. From that point on, a lot of the things stay the same. From the battery to the RAM being 12 gigs still, you still have 3 options for storage size from 256, 512, and a terabyte. It still supports the same network carriers and same bands. The Wi-Fi does support Wi-Fi 6E now instead of just 6, so you do have a slight benefit there. The S Pen does the same features. Fortunately, the S Pen still does not house inside the device. This was one I was really hoping that Samsung was going to fix this year. That's definitely a negative. If you're holding out for that, you might hold out another year. This device is a lot of refinements. So a lot of refinements can build up to a very good device. We don't necessarily have to have this groundbreaking new device every year, but when a company focuses on a lot of refinements and makes that worth your while, I still believe that's a very good device. When you just marginally make differences from your last model or your last generation, then there isn't enough. But Samsung did so much to refine, building a new hinge, new cameras, wider displays, smaller bezels. I believe these are all things that really make and refine the phone. Now, if you're a Fold 3 owner, these are where things become a little bit harder to decide on. I personally myself did this upgrade because of the cameras. The cameras are one of the most important, crucial things to me, just not because of this career, but because of just the importance to cameras and very good quality. There was a lot of things with the last year's model between HDR and the color dynamics, not as bright, low light situations. I wasn't getting near as good as shots as other phones. So that was a very crucial piece to me why I wanted to upgrade. That might not be to you, but that was primarily the main reason to me why I wanted to upgrade to the Fold 4. So I feel like there's still areas of improvement, and one of those is definitely the cover screen. The cover screen can still be a little narrow in some tasks, but as you may know by now, the cover screen is mainly meant for quick tasks, in and out, check text messages, maybe check your email real quick and go on about your business. But when you have a lot of work you want to complete or long-term things you're going to be using your phone for a little bit, then you will open it. That's the point of the Fold versus a regular phone. It basically gives you the ability to have 2 phones in one, depending on what you're doing. I have pretty normal size hands, and I still sometimes feel a little cramped on some of the keys, especially with Android and gestures. Sometimes you'll get close enough to the edge of the screen where the gestures will have issues understanding, are you doing a gesture swipe or are you swiping across on the keyboard letters? Some of that obviously depends on if you're a swipe keyboard person. If you have a Fold 3, this upgrade may not be for you unless there's importance in cameras to you. And then I think at that point, it's something you should definitely consider. Cameras are definitely better. The build quality is definitely better. If those aren't too high importance to you, I would honestly wait again until the Fold 4. If you're coming from the Fold 2, this is a huge upgrade. These are all things for you to consider. But I think if you really like cameras, I think you should do the upgrade. Plus, Samsung gives you really good discounts on your trade-ins. Might be something to check out. If you have any questions about this video, want me to cover anything on the Fold 4, I'm going to be going over accessories and some other things that you might want to turn on or advanced features you may want to enable. Stay tuned. I'm going to continue a lot of stuff in the next few months. It's Tech Timber, so a lot of more videos coming. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.